The 1996 Summer Olympics, referred to as the Centennial Olympic Games, were an international multi-sport event that was held from July 19th to August 4th, 1996 in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. These games were the fourth Summer Olympics to be hosted by the United States and were the first since 1924 to be held in a different year from a Winter Olympics. More than 10,000 athletes from 197 national Olympic committees competed in 26 sports. 24 countries made their Summer Olympic debut in Atlanta, including 11 former Soviet republics participating for the first time as independent nations. The hosting United States led the medal count with a total of 101 medals and the most gold and silver medals out of all countries. 111 people were injured on July 27th when Eric Rudolph detonated pipe bombs at Centennial Olympic Park. The Games also faced criticism for being overly commercialized as well as for the lack of availability of food and transportation. The event had a lasting impact on the city. Centennial Olympic Park has served as a symbol of the Games' legacy, and the Centennial Olympic Stadium has been redeveloped twice since the Games.
I worked for 4 years for the Olympics, from 1992 until the closing ceremonies in 1996. It was really exciting to see people from all over the world coming to our hometown of Atlanta. It was really neat having credentials and passes, working on security and safety assessments to get behind the scenes and down on the playing fields of all the events that I wanted to go to and meet lots of famous athletes and famous people. It was a really cool time in life. The thing I think was the coolest about the Olympics was the legacy that was left for Atlanta. Most people just think of the Centennial Olympic Stadium, but also the Horse Park in Conyers was built, and it still remains today. 2 stadiums for the traditionally black colleges down at Spelman and Clark, Atlanta, were built and are used for their football and soccer team. The Olympic Rowing Center up in Lake Lanier still remains today. And so does the Whitewater Rafting Center that was utilized up in North Georgia and Tennessee. So there was a big legacy that was left over from the Olympics that's still here and still being utilized for people to enjoy today, and a lot of people forget about that.
I remember the day that they announced that Atlanta got the Olympics. It was, I can't remember the exact day, but it was in 1992, and I remember where I was working, and how we all cheered. And then we just kind of watched as everything started building and preparing for the Olympics. And I was actually dating a guy who I'm married to now, but back then he had a job with the Olympics. And so I went with him to a lot of the events and got to meet a lot of cool people, and just, I think it was so cool watching the city grow and accept all the responsibility of hosting this incredible event. I know my family would come into town and we would go to some of the events, and I would travel with my fiance still and go to, I remember we went to the opening ceremonies and actually the closing ceremonies and a lot of the Olympic swimming events at Georgia Tech. That was really cool. The Conyers Horse Park, I remember watching that being built and going to some of the equestrian events there. And anyway, it was a great time for Atlanta. Of course, a horrible memory was the bomb that happened, but it did happen, but we survived it, and Atlanta grew from it, and it was just a great experience.
One of my teachers, Mr. Bergeron, was actually in college at the time of the Olympics. It was his sophomore year, and he was living in an apartment in New Hampshire outside of his college. And he said the coolest thing about the Olympics while he was in college was him and his buddies could watch whenever they wanted, so they could stay up late and watch certain athletes that were competing, or get up early if there were certain events they wanted to watch. He said that the coolest part was moving down to Atlanta a few years later and seeing all the venues of the Olympics and how different they were on TV from how they were in person. He said that he believed that Atlanta represented the United States well, and it was crazy how much attention that the city got after the Olympics went on. He said that he loved watching the Olympics, and it was a great experience for him overall.